member. The member for Victoria Park.
Apologise. I am very pleased to rise this evening in this House to speak to our dog amendment Stop Puppy Farming Bill 2021. Today is a big day for animal welfare in Western Australia. While this bill is not about animal welfare laws or amendments to those laws, which will hopefully come, it is about the breeding and traceability of dogs. As such, in effect, this bill does deliver the most significant animal welfare improvement in WA since the Animal Welfare Act was updated in 2002. I am proud that this government is committed to improving animal welfare in this state. Currently and sadly, anyone can breed as many puppies as they want, and unplanned litters are common. This bill, the Stop Puppy Farming Bill, is vital to prevent cruelty, neglect and abandonment of dogs. It will be the first law to regulate dog breeding in Western Australia. It is the result of an extensive and comprehensive public consultation process. This consultation and the bill that resulted is now, I'm very happy to say, the beneficiary of strong public support. Along with community members, one of the stakeholders that made significant contributions to this bill was the RSPCA. As the RSPCA has concurred, the 4 key planks of this bill, mandatory sterilisation, registration of anyone wanting to breed from their dog, a centralised registration system, and pet shops that sell dogs to become adoption centres, will have a huge impact on the number of unwanted dogs and puppies in WA each and every year. I'll go briefly into these 4 key planks. Firstly, mandatory dog sterilisation. Under this legislation, unless exempt, all dogs will be required to be sterilised by the time they reach 2 years of age. This does not apply to dogs that are currently registered with their local government. Exemptions from mandatory sterilisation will apply in certain understandable circumstances. Secondly, the approval to breed dogs. Under this legislation, a person applies for approval to breed from their local government. It is a once-off application and stays in place indefinitely unless it's cancelled. I am pleased that this bill allows a local government to cancel an approval to breed if the owner is not compliant with the relevant acts or if they breach the conditions of their approval. Put simply, all breeders will need to comply with new health and welfare standards for their dogs and puppies. This means that people and families wishing to purchase a dog can be confident their already loved new pet is bred in acceptable welfare conditions. Thirdly, a centralised registration system. The new requirement for a centralised registration system introduced in this bill also amends the Cat Act 2011, so all information about cat and dog registrations is recorded in the same central database. This database will ensure information can be shared across local government districts and, importantly, assist authorities with monitoring and enforcing welfare standards and breeding approval conditions. Finally, transitioning pet shops to adoption centres. This bill changes the way pet shops source their puppies and provides another outlet for unwanted or abandoned dogs. Crucially, the approved pet shop will only be able to source dogs from a rescue or shelter organisation that has been accredited by the state government. To safeguard consumers, each accredited organisation must provide a health certificate for each dog that is supplied to a pet shop. And the pet shop must supply the certificate and breeder information to the person who purchases the dog. Some of my crossed out words may be making their way back in, Minister. This caveat has provided myself and many members of my community with great comfort. Many community members have expressed to me that they have purchased dogs through pet shops and were concerned that they inadvertently supported the puppy farming industry, which was never their intent. All community members I have spoken with have welcomed this change, and I can assure you that we love our dogs in Victoria Park. It is undeniable that these reforms will prevent cruelty, neglect and abandonment of dogs. We know that RSPCA WA inspectors deal with many cases where unwanted puppies and dogs are simply abandoned and left to fend for themselves. In recent years, cases have included puppies found dumped in a shopping bag in a bush near Collie, a box of 10 black and tan puppies estimated to be just 1 or 2 weeks old, with their umbilical cords still attached, dumped near Narrogin Creek. And in December 2019, a litter of puppies was dumped at a rubbish tip in Esperance. The RSPCA has agreed that the new provisions within this bill will most certainly reduce the number of sad cases like these. Added to the neglect and abandonment of unwanted dogs, puppy farming leads to the heartbreaking scenario of genetic faults, which may not be apparent until the dog becomes much older in age. This means owners may face massive vet bills for ongoing care and corrective surgery, or in the event that health problems become too great, the dog must be euthanised to save it from a life of pain and suffering. Many people in this place and hundreds of thousands in our community know the heartbreak of having to euthanise a beloved family dog. I and my family included. This last little over a year has been the first time in my over 40 years that I have been without a dog waiting for me at home, and I desperately miss their welcoming wagging tails. I can honestly say that between a husband and 2 boys and 2 dogs, it was often the 2 dogs that were only ever excited to see me come home from a day at work. What feels like far too recently to me, my family and I said goodbye to our beautiful and love-filled Airedale Terrier Indy and our hilarious and mischievous Standard Poodle Jeff. However, we were lucky enough to have loved our dogs to a ripe old age, each over 13 years of age when we said goodbye, or roughly about 80 years in human years. Both our dogs would have come from what would be accredited and approved breeders under this legislation. The breeder of our Airedale Terrier, I do have to let you know, Pauline Kitching, is somewhat famous in the Airedale Terrier community in WA. She cares passionately for her dogs and breeds for health and temperament. If anything, she puts the fear of God into new owners to treat their new 4-legged family additions well, and she has been known to reject potential owners because she didn't trust that they would make good Airedale parents. Although Airedales are Pauline's favourite, and she somewhat begrudgingly came to the conclusion that my other dog, Jeff, was pretty all right, she does actually love all sorts of dogs. Pauline has now become a fan of greyhounds and has taken in retired and injured, or those that cannot race, greyhound racers from a nearby property as she grew increasingly concerned for their welfare. This bill will support reputable and caring breeders like Pauline, who do the right thing and love their dogs as much as we all do. It will help her efforts to breed ethically and help ensure healthy, loved dogs are entering our family homes. It will minimise the inflow of puppies into the market from unscrupulous breeders and arm buyers with the information they need to make an educated decision about who is an approved breeder and provide comfort regarding their animal welfare practices. I did just mention greyhounds, and I do want to mention them again. While not deemed a defining pillar of this bill, it is important to note that this bill removes the requirement for retired greyhounds to be muzzled. I am very happy about this clause. Greyhounds suffer from a misplaced reputation. Greyhounds in actuality are incredibly well-mannered, calm and lazy dogs. Despite their speed, greyhounds sleep on average up to 20 hours a day. I'm very envious. I know, my dream life too, Minister. They are very affectionate dogs and make perfect pets. My sons and I are actually in the process of convincing my husband to adopt a greyhound. With young kids and having already undergone that wonderful all-chewing, all-digging, toilet training puppy phase quite a number of times, adopting a greyhound is very appealing to a family like mine. When adopting a former racing greyhound, you are adopting a dog that doesn't need a lot of exercise, especially compared to a puppy, which I have to say appeals to me greatly, is friendly, well-mannered, quiet and great with kids. So Andrew, if you are listening, me and the boys' campaign for greyhound adoption is now immortalised in Hansard. We may give you a year or so with a newly decent-looking backyard, but after that, the campaign will hit overdrive, and this is fair warning. But sadly for my and other families, a barrier to fostering or adopting a greyhound can be the requirement to muzzle them. This bill removes that barrier for greyhounds to find a loving home. The wearing of muzzles also compounds the effect of a misplaced reputation. When you see a dog wearing a muzzle, you naturally assume that it's an aggressive dog. Greyhounds are not naturally aggressive. Removing the requirement for muzzles opens more space for the rehabilitation of their reputations, and they deserve good ones. I take this opportunity to compliment the work of Greyhounds Adoptions WA and Greyhounds as Pets. I regularly set up a stall at our Vic Park markets on Sundays, and I always request to be next to the greyhound adoption stall so I can spend a good part of the morning cuddling these wonderful hounds. They are a wonderful breed, and I know these groups are very excited for the requirement to muzzle being removed, and I'm looking forward to letting them know when this bill passes into law. I also take this opportunity to thank RSPC WA, Dogs West and other stakeholders for having contributed to the development of this bill and for working with the McGowan government for years to help realise its introduction again to this place. And I thank Ministers Carey and Templeman, and particularly the member for Maylands, staff and other community stakeholders for their years of work in getting this before Parliament. The sooner this bill becomes law, the sooner it will help prevent much of the suffering and cruelty many dogs sadly suffer every day in this state. I commend this bill to the House.
Thank you.